Welcome to The Explainer. So, have you ever wondered how those grand, sweeping corporate visions actually survive the brutal reality of the free market? Today, we're exploring the absolutely fascinating world of business competition. We're going to look at how high-level market positioning translates directly into daily competitive maneuvers right on the ground. We're talking about the difference between just drawing up the blueprints for success and actually swinging the hammer.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our battle plan for the explainer today. We'll start with the strategy hierarchy, look at generic business-level strategies, and then pivot from strategy to tactics. After that, we'll cover offensive competitive tactics and finish up with defensive and timing tactics.
To really get what we're talking about today, we have to go back to the origins of the concept. As our sources highlight, the word strategy actually comes from the Greek word strategia, which translates to generalship. Now, in the military, strategy is all about maneuvering your troops into the most advantageous position before the enemy is even engaged. But in the commercial world, business strategy is about winning the market war. It's figuring out your absolute best course of action to outmaneuver rivals and secure a lasting advantage.
Section 1. The strategy hierarchy. Before a company can launch any kind of attack, it needs to know exactly where the battle is taking place.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the chaotic tug-of-war happening right in the middle here. Every single strategic decision happens right between the external environment, things like the economy, new technology, and political shifts, and the internal environment, which is your organizational culture, your human resources, your cash flow. This environment shapes the entire strategic planning process across every single level of a company.
Because of that incredibly complex environment, large organizations break their planning down into a three-tier hierarchy. At the very top, you have corporate strategy. This level asks the big questions, like what business should we even be in? For example, if McDonald's suddenly decided to start manufacturing kitchen equipment, that massive shift is a corporate-level diversification decision. Down at the bottom, you have functional strategy, which is all about how specific departments like marketing or IT maximize their daily efficiency. But our focus today is strictly on that vital middle tier, business strategy.
Business-level strategy assumes you already know what industry you're in. The question now is simply, how do you win? Our sources define business-level strategy as the specific methods a company uses to compete successfully in a chosen market. The fundamental truth of business is that every single company has rivals. Your ability to succeed absolutely depends on establishing a distinct, sustainable edge over those rivals so that customers consistently choose you over the competition.
Section 2. Generic business-level strategies. So, how exactly do you establish that edge? Let's take a look.
And this brilliantly illustrates the classic framework from renowned strategist Michael Porter. He argues that you basically have to choose one of these main avenues of attack to avoid getting stuck in the middle. You can pursue cost leadership, which means you are striving to achieve the lowest overall costs in your industry for a broad mass market. Or you can choose differentiation, offering totally unique attributes or special features that make your product stand out to that broad audience. Finally, if you don't want to fight for the whole market, you can use a focus strategy, zooming in on a very narrow niche and winning them over by either being the absolute cheapest option for them or perfectly customizing your product to their unique tastes.
Let's ground this theory with some real-world examples straight from our sources. Look at Walmart and Aldi. They are textbook examples of cost leadership. They optimize their supply chains to drive down prices, appealing to millions of price-sensitive shoppers. But contrast that with Staples, the office supply chain. Rather than just fighting a race to the bottom on the price of paper clips, they pursued a differentiation strategy. They added unique, high-value services right inside their retail stores, like UPS shipping, copying centers, and hiring mobile tech repair teams. They set themselves apart by offering unique value, not just low prices.
Section 3. From strategy to tactics. We've covered the grand macro plan, but a whiteboard doesn't win the market on its own. Time for a sharp pivot to the micro tools of engagement.
So, the crucial point is understanding the difference between strategy and tactics. Strategy is the war. It's long-term, it sets the broad direction, and it answers the what and why. Tactics, on the other hand, are the daily battles. They are the short-term, specific, step-by-step maneuvers that answer the how, when, and where. Your strategy might be to differentiate your brand, but your tactic? That's the specific ad campaign you launch next Tuesday to actually prove it. You absolutely need both to survive.
Section 4. Offensive competitive tactics. Now that we're fully on the battlefield, let's explore exactly how companies actively attack their rivals.
Our sources identify several distinct offensive maneuvers companies use to steal market share, And a golden rule here is that attacking a competitor's weakness is almost always more successful than challenging their strengths. We're looking at the frontal assault, the flanking maneuver, the bypass attack, and the guerrilla attack. Let's look closely at a couple of the most striking ones.
First up, the frontal assault. This is when an attacking firm goes head-to-head with its competitor, matching them on product, price, promotion, and distribution. It is bold, and honestly, it is incredibly expensive. Our sources cite the famous diaper war, where Kimberly-Clark's Huggies launched a massive frontal assault against Procter & Gamble's market-leading Pampers. They fought dollar for dollar on advertising and price cuts. The result? It depressed profits for literally everyone in the industry. Talk about mutually assured destruction. It takes incredibly deep pockets and sheer perseverance to survive a frontal assault.
But what if you don't have deep pockets? Enter guerrilla offensives. This tactic is perfectly suited for smaller challengers. They use hit-and-run tactics to essentially drive the big guys crazy. Think unexpected price cuts or intense bursts of promo in highly localized areas. It's meant to harass, distract, and demoralize larger opponents who are simply too slow and bulky to swat them away.
Section 5. Defensive and timing tactics. Because if you're succeeding, someone else will eventually attack you. Let's see how companies protect their territory.
Let's move to Deme and see how this builds the other side of the battlefield. Defensive tactics don't usually create a competitive advantage, but they protect the one you've got. The goal is to lower your risk of being attacked in the first place. You can do this in three main ways. First, raise structural barriers, like signing exclusive supplier agreements so new entrants literally can't get materials. Second, signal strong retaliation, like publicly maintaining a massive war chest of cash so rivals know a price war will ruin them. And third, reduce the inducement for attacks altogether.
A brilliant example of that third tactic, reducing inducement, comes from Southwest Airlines. Southwest deliberately keeps its prices aggressively low and constantly invests in cost-reducing measures. By doing this, they keep the profit margins in their specific market segments incredibly tight. This acts as a powerful defensive shield. When a potential challenger looks at Southwest's market, they see so little profit incentive that they simply decide it's just not worth the financial risk to enter the fight.
Finally, we have to talk about the clock. Competitive advantage springs just as much from when a move is made as what move is made. This is the whole concept of timing tactics. In any industry shift, you generally have first movers who pioneer the space, second movers or fast followers who watch the pioneer's mistakes and quickly offer an improved version, and late movers who just wait until the market is completely de-risked.
Being a first mover carries massive risks, no doubt, but the rewards can be absolutely industry-defining. A successful first mover gets to establish their product as the standard, effectively locking in customers early on. Our sources highlight Microsoft setting the standard with the Windows operating system and Netscape grabbing over an 80% market share by being the first to successfully commercialize the internet browser. If you have the resources to exploit the new market and defend it, being first can yield profit advantages that last for a decade or more.
And that brings us to the ultimate question for anyone navigating the business world today. Strategy is essential. You must know your environment, pick your generic approach, and chart your course. But as we've seen, corporate visions mean absolutely nothing with the functional tactics, the frontal assaults, the defensive barriers, the precise timing to actually execute them. So as you look at your own organization or your own career, are you just planning the war in a boardroom, or are you truly prepared to fight the daily battles on the ground? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time as we continue to decode the mechanics of success.